What is going on, my friends? I hope you are doing well today. The team at TRE wants to say thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for joining today. This is the Real Estate Podcast, and we want you guys to do us a solid. If you don't mind, can you help us get the message out? We believe that real estate can be for anybody, and we believe there's opportunities for people to grow with us. So if you can, please share, subscribe, like, comment. Thank you for being here on our journey, and we are going to continue to add as much value as we possibly can and try to shake up the industry. Let's dive in.
I think for the last, I don't know if it's 10 years now, we've had like 150 to 170, 180 people a day moving to the Austin MSA. Mm-hmm. It's still not enough. Like we have so many businesses that are relocating here that need to hire employees. And we need, and a lot of the businesses that are relocating here are tech. So we're getting like really educated people that are moving here with salaries that are, north of $100,000 a year. And so that's pretty nice. If you have two people that are tech oriented, husband and wife, and they're making $150,000 each, they can buy some pretty nice housing.
All right, guys, welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. We got that official name, the Real Estate Podcast. Nice. Appreciate you guys being here. I'm very excited. We have had Brent on before, but we got Brent Campbell, local Round Rock guy. Been in the business for what, 20?
In coming up on 20.
20 years. He's with Don Quick here in Round Rock, and I actually worked with you for a little bit. I think maybe 6-7 months.
Before grad school, right?
Yeah, right before I went back to A&M. And you were taking me out on, I remember we went to a daycare. We went to a guy that had a lot of land that I think he had like a landing strip for a plane, and I was just kind of jumping in and figuring it out. Yeah. And so I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. He's came on the podcast before, but Brent specializes in commercial real estate and does a lot, which is one thing that I think is really cool at Don Quick and different from my experience at Edge is like we were just retail. That's all we did, and we didn't consider office, we didn't consider multifamily. Yeah. My perception is you do a little of all of it. And
we do, yeah.
So today, what I think is really cool, it's going to be a little different because a lot of times we just like get into people's stories, and we kind of did that with you. Sure. But Brent brought a list of deals and concepts and things that are going on within the city. You'll probably see me look at my phone a little bit. I took a screenshot of what he has. And the goal, as always, is to provide as much value as we can and to help promote you as well. Yeah, I appreciate that. But thanks for coming, man. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I'm going to have to look down at my notes, too, just so I can remember everything that we're going to talk about. But, yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. I think it'll be good content for the people watching. So.
Yeah, well, I guess just to catch up to speed, I mean, I feel like it was like 2 or 3 years ago that you came on.
Yeah, I think was it pre-pandemic?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what's been going on?
So much time has happened. So many things have happened. It's crazy. Well, I mean, clearly we had COVID, and during that time, our office was closed down for a lot of it, but I was there almost every day working, and I think that really helped me last year. I had a really good year last year, but I think the groundwork for that was probably set up just working really just nose to the grindstone all the way through those COVID times. And it was a tough time, but we got it kind of figured out, and we're able to keep a lot of deals held together for landlords. And we had to go back and maybe renegotiate some things with some tenants, try to help tenants and help them make it through that time. And then on sales, Austin's just been growing like crazy even during that time. So it was a little bit more difficult, a lot more Zoom meetings and less face-to-face. But we figured out ways to get things done.
Yeah, it was uncharted
territory. One of the things I'm going to talk about in a little bit is a project that we got coming in Round Rock over on Kenny Fort, and I'll get to that in a minute. But we did a 10-family assemblage over there, so I'll talk about that in a little bit when we get to it. But
that's cool.
We did all that during COVID, where we got 10 families together, so it's a pretty neat deal.
So I have a little experience over there. My uncle owned a tract on the other side, like right where Kenny Fort was going to push through. Yeah, I can't remember the street name, but it's on 45. I sold it to a guy named Brian Rome. He's building townhouses. Yeah. And I knew Kenny was coming right to it. Yep. I had it listed at 1.6.
On the south side of 45. Mm-hmm. trying to think of what Brian's. I know Brian. I'm trying to think of what his company name is. It escapes me right this moment.
Providence or Prominence?
Providence. That's right, Providence. He's a big fly fishing guy, so we get along well.
Oh, cool.
I love to fly fish. So.
Nice, man. I wish I knew that name. Starts with a T, maybe. Oh, that road. But like, I was sitting on that. I was working at Edge. Mm-hmm. My uncle owned it, and I'm like, 1.6. This is cheap. Yeah. I kept trying to tell everyone in my office. That's kind of no knock to them, but that's kind of the whole challenge and part of what's driven me to how I am today is I knew that there was value there. And they just were like, it's not a retail spot. Yeah. And I'm like, well, maybe it will be when this freaking road comes up to it.
Yep.
Right to it.
But
ended up selling it. And I like Brian, and I'm glad he did what he did. I wish it could have been something different. I think townhomes are great. But I didn't have the ability to take it down. I was trying to figure it out. I was like, if we could just buy this, I bet you that thing is worth $4 now.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a really cool project plan there. I've seen kind of what they want to do there. And townhomes, this area is getting a lot of townhomes and condos and lots of neat projects. And that's going to be exciting for the area because we're really shifting because there's not a whole lot of land left, especially in the Round Rock area. Mm-hmm. And so things are starting to go more vertical. Starting to see projects where rather than kind of a sprawl, we're starting to go up, and I think that's exciting. Yeah, it's a difficult change for some people because it changes away from kind of that small town Round Rock vibe, but not so much. I mean, it just depends on the area. Sure, that's happening down here as well, downtown. So there's a lot of stuff happening down here that. We're going to have stuff go vertical. So.
I'm fascinated to see what happens here. We have a couple properties here. The other thing I sold, which was cool, is on A.W. Grimes. It was 9.5 acres just north of like that little shopping center where they have Waffle Houses going in and there's a little hotel.
Right.
I did that 9.5 acre tract.
Nice.
And both of those, I was like, I want to own these. It was just too much.
Yeah. I mean, when I got here, I was talking with some of your folks in the lobby about like land prices. And they were saying they were working on something in Manor, and the guy was wanting like $1 million an acre. But I mean, that's been that way here for a long time. If you're in Round Rock, Georgetown, really Cedar Park, Leander, Pflugerville in some places, if you have a good commercial tract, a good retail tract, I mean, $1 million an acre is not unheard of.
It's funny because I'm trying the best I can to. It's hard to, at least for me, to figure out how to like lay it all out and teach and give the knowledge that I have.
Sure.
But he's looking at tracts where it's like, I told him, I was like, we're thinking like 40 to 50 an acre. And we're looking at like 100, 50, 70. And so it didn't compute with him on like 1 acre, $1 million. I'm like, yeah, but it's probably like a prime corner. Like if it's something that Chick-fil-A would buy, then it's $1 million. Yeah. But when you get 50, 100, 200 acres, that's a different.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So
once you start getting into larger land tracts, larger acreage, you're going to see that price come down. But I mean, I've seen stuff, Williams Drive, Liberty Hill, people asking $22, $24, $26 a foot. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. And now we've kind of moved away from people wanting to sell lots and pads in retail, especially on the retail side, to back to more like ground lease stuff. So I started in early 2003 and went through the .com bust. I think I talked about that in the last podcast, but in like 2005, people were really trying to like ground lease stuff. They wanted to hold the land. They wanted to do ground leases to people. And then they wanted to, own the property long term or be able to flip it to something else. Mm-hmm. And then after kind of 2009, 2010, the little recession, ground leasing stuff just kind of went away. Nobody's really doing that. But now it's really back. I mean, there's a lot of people trying to do ground lease.
That's the dream deal, right?
Yeah.
That's what I've always
Somebody
thought.
comes in, builds the building for you, you continue to own
that's
the property.
The investor's dream deal.
Yeah. I mean, we're just seeing it a lot of different places. I mean, it's crazy to me. When I first started in this business, Liberty Hill had an answering machine. So you'd call them and they'd be like, we can't come to the phone right now. Leave a message at the beep, and then literally the beep. So now Liberty Hill's growing tremendously. And there's even I don't know how I got off on Liberty Hill. I'm just using it as an example because I think of that as still being kind of far out there. Yeah. But it's really not. I mean, they've just bought their third high school site. And, I think the population of that area is like 1,000 people in the city limits. Mm-hmm. And in the ETJ, it's like 60 or 70,000 people.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a little misleading because there's a lot of people out there now. But to be ground leasing in Liberty Hill and paying, $125,000 a year for a ground lease, it's just crazy.
That is crazy. Well, one thing before we get into your notes, I want to kind of go on this little, not a rant, but I was meeting with a banker yesterday, and it was really cool, to start talking. I've been doing this since 2012, and I've been in Texas, and I always tell people, like, I've never seen a downturn. Like, I want to see it. Like, they're like, no, you don't. No. But like, I do in the sense of like, not that I want that to happen, but I want to understand real estate at a deeper level.
Sure.
And it's been weird because everything's been great here for a long time. And to me, it seems like it's still going to be that way here, specifically in Austin, Texas.
It's always what you don't see, though.
Right. And so anyways, I'm meeting with this guy, and we're just talking about the market and interest rates changing and inflation. And I feel like landowners and probably everybody got a little greedy in the last like 6 months. And like, we're talking to people out in Taylor and next to Samsung, and they wanted 50,000 an acre, and then 2 months later they want 120. And now my perception is that's slowing down a bit, and some of these landowners still have these crazy numbers in their head.
Sure.
And they're going to stay there with those numbers. But one of my buddies is buying some land. He's got under contract. And like, we're still in a position here where there's not enough supply. There's people and jobs coming here. And like,
which is crazy considering how much land we have in this area.
Right. But I mean,
drive 20 minutes to the east and land just goes on and on and on forever.
Yeah. And what I'm kind of getting at though is like, the way I'm thinking about it is like, everyone's kind of always complained about like how cities are so slow to allow people to develop. And now I'm like, that's a good thing. Like, that's how I'm thinking. It's like, I'm glad that not everyone's just sold all their land and everyone's building on it, and it's harder to buy land, and that they have these expectations of these high prices that they're probably not going to get. So the entrepreneurs and the people that can get stuff done, that's better for them. Right. That's what I'm kind of thinking through.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say we've seen prices adjust a little bit from the standpoint of people are like really, really high. And then they're bringing that price down when they're actually getting to contract, but they're still setting the market with every sale, if that makes sense. So like, people's expectations are, let's say, $2 a foot for their farmland, when in reality, it's probably worth still acreage prices, or maybe $1 a square foot in some of those areas. And then when they're getting offers, they're coming back to reality, away from $2, or 86,000, however you want to talk about it in acreage or in per square foot values. But then they're really still getting like maybe north of $1 a foot. I mean, for farmland that should be selling for acreage prices. Right. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy. People are saying their expectations really high, and they're maybe not meeting those expectations, but still falling in a place
that's good with
their sales price that's higher than anything we've seen.
Yeah, and that's good. And it's funny, like, I'm cold calling a lot, and I'm just like learning, man. And like, I asked this guy yesterday, I'm like, well, he was gonna get like, what he was saying was, I want 115,000 per acre. Yeah, it was in Mainers, like 200 acres. It's a crazy price. And I was like, well, and I didn't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I was like, where'd you come up with that? Did you make it up? Not like, I was being serious. Like, did you make it up? And he got mad. He's like, no, I didn't make that up. And I'm like, well, do you have some comps? And he's like, no. I'm like, so you made it up, and then I started to think like, what, but I'm starting to think like, all right, this guy's going to get like $30 million. So I'm like, what I'm on the path of is like, what do you want to do with the money?
Right.
And they actually have no idea. And whether they get 10 million or 20 or 50, it might not even matter. Obviously, the more money, the better. Yeah. But like, you're 80 years old or 70, and like, go enjoy. You can enjoy 5 million as much as you can enjoy 20. Right. In a sense. But like, he's like, why do you want to know that? I'm like, well, I'm just trying to understand your situation. Right. Then I can maybe help you out, whether I'm the buyer or the broker or whatever.
Sure. Well, I think that I think you have situations where, I mean, even when we're evaluating sales prices, you always want to make sure you're not shorting your client. Like you don't want your client to not be able to sell it for top dollar. And sometimes the comparable sales in the market are not top dollar. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but with the amount of cash, I mean, Austin and the Austin MSA and Central Texas really in general, including probably San Antonio and a lot of the outlying areas, I mean, word's out about us, and I'm not talking about words out like statewide or nationally. I'm talking about globally. Like Austin is a global player. We got companies growing in Austin that are, from all over the world.
Opportunity City.
And so, right. And so, I mean, the reality is that you have a lot of cash that's coming into the market, and cash doesn't care about, sales comps. Cash needs to go into, they need to be able to buy the land that they need or the property they need to be able to do their project. And so, I think that's important when you're evaluating things for property sellers. A lot of times we'll take the comps, and then, sometimes you just have to use your best judgment. I mean, 20 years experience gives you a lot of judgment to be able to try to determine, like, hey, do we need to go up on price? Like, do we need to give ourselves a cushion here? Because the last thing you want to do is take a listing on something and you put it on the market and have 25 buyers in the commercial world. And I know that happens in the residential world, and they're trying to get a bidding situation. We don't really have bidding situations in commercial. It gets into some weird business ethics there when you have that. You want people to make their highest and best offer, but at the same time, you just don't get into as many bidding situations. At least I haven't seen that in my career. I mean, it may change as things get tighter. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is give a little cushion when we're pricing things and trying to make sure that we're leaving land. I mean, it's easier for landowners or property sellers to come down than it is to go up. So, you don't want to put something on the market and then have to take it off the market and readjust and put it back out, which that has happened. Because ultimately you want to try and get it priced right, but it's hard when things are moving so quick. I mean, things that were just an example. Like a few years ago, I remember, you had to have $3 dirt in order to build industrially, right? And now people are selling stuff for $8, $10, $12 a foot to industrial developers. And some of that has to do with how tight the market is on that side. But yeah, it's a crazy market. I mean, you really have to keep your, keep on your toes, because sometimes it almost feels worse after doing this for 20 years, because I'm questioning, like, wait, that's not right, or wait, maybe it is right. I have to like really analyze it and think about it when I'm pricing things, because, in my mind, well, this should be what it was. I have to be careful not to get caught in a trap where I'm like, well, this should be where at this number, but that's really where that number was, 10 years ago. Sure. You have to be careful not to short your clients. I think that's important.
The one thing that I approach it a little different than some people. Like, we all come up with our own style, right? Yeah. And like for me, like when I'm talking to the landowners, like I'm literally thinking first, like me as the buyer, whether I can afford it or not. I'm like, I'll figure this out, right? And then I have this weird dynamic of like, I've been in the commercial world and residential, and they're so different. And for me, at least my perception of commercial is like, here's the price, like let's get this done, this is what it's going to take, versus residential, like just send me your offer, right? And I do the balance of both, and I'm like, this is how we did it in commercial. It doesn't seem like that's how you would get a deal done,
I think on the commercial side, and I don't know, I don't do any residential, so I don't pretend to, understand all the things that everybody does on the residential side. But I think on the commercial side, when it comes to price or it comes to deals, there's always just so many people involved, right? So on the residential side, I think a lot of times you'll have like a buyer and seller agent, lender, title company, maybe an attorney, maybe an appraiser, probably an appraiser if there's a loan, maybe a surveyor. So on the commercial side, we have all those, and then we have, 5 business partners on one side, 3 on the other, multiple attorneys, contracts that are, between 50 and 100 pages potentially to make sure they cover every single thing, and you got to get two people, buyer and seller, and their attorneys to agree to all the things that are in all those documents. So I think when it comes to something like price, I think there's a lot of people in the deal that are analyzing that deal. I mean, and then they got to satisfy their, sometimes you have investors that have to be satisfied on the buyer side or on the seller side. There's just so many players involved in the commercial transaction compared to the residential transaction. It's not always like that. Sometimes it's buyer, seller, and 2 agents, and that's it. And a title company. But more often than not, there's a lot of people involved. I mean, there could be, engineers and architects, and I mean, just so many other people that are having a say into what's happening on any one side. So I think that's
different. And when I was doing, like, I did a couple deals with Buffalo Wild Wings. And like, we're doing it was a build to suit, and like you negotiate it, and at some point it was like we just, I'm still involved, but I got out of the way, and these attorneys were figuring it out.
That happens too.
Yeah,
I mean, once attorneys start talking to each other, I mean, they're just educated at a different level than real estate agents are. So on the commercial side, that happens quite often. You tee the deal up, you hand it off to the attorneys, but it's not. There's still involvement, right? Because the attorney is going to consult with you about. Keep you on the loop. Well, they're going to consult with you about like the actual deal points, right. Like how should this be done? How should that be done? And then they're going to handle all the legal points, which is great. I mean, it really is great. Like people worry about attorneys, but I've got some really good attorneys in town in this area. Decent Gerard, Lee Gerard's done a ton of legal work for me here in downtown Round Rock over the years, and he's great. And I mean, I like attorneys that are working hard for their clients and all to protect their clients, but also trying to protect the deal also to make sure that the deal has to happen. Yeah. Right. And so, they're going to do everything they have to protect their client. Sometimes you get into things where it's overprotection and then the deal gets killed. Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes maybe it needs to. Sure.
Yeah, you might not know as much as they know for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that I think about, back to kind of what you were saying about people coming here and paying cash and like understanding the market is, I've been saying this right or wrong for the last like 6 months. I'm like, I don't think anybody understands the market, right? It's like you can have as much knowledge as you want, but then whoever comes from globally from Asia and they're like, this makes sense for us. Yeah. Then that's the new number.
Right.
So
that's right.
So I fall back on me personally. Right. I'm like, the market, the free market tells you what it's worth.
Oh, and absolutely.
There's a balance, right? Like you said, you don't want to reprice it or whatever, but like you could price it and then the market's going to tell you what it's worth.
Well, really cash buyers are setting the new market. Yeah. I mean, just like you said. I mean, because then they're going to buy it and then you're going to have that comp and then you can use that comp in other places. But yeah, I mean, just tons of people coming from all over the place, man. It's crazy.
Well, I just wanted to.
Austin, Texas is a global city now.
Dude, I've been saying it like.
There is one thing about that though. Yeah. In the last downturn, 08, 09, 10, depending on when you think about when it started, I think we were a little insulated here in this area. But as we grow more globally, then things that happen globally affect us more economically.
But we're not like, at least it doesn't seem like we're even close to that yet. Maybe we are.
I had a client describe this to me. He's from California, and he described their growth out there. And I may have actually mentioned this in the last podcast. I can't remember if I did or not. But he thinks we're in like the third or fourth inning of a 9-inning baseball game here.
That's what.
So I mean, we really could have growth for the next 20, 30,
I'm
40
drinking
years,
the Kool-Aid, man.
Our entire career.
This banker I was saying he was like, well, if something were to happen with tech, like say they laid off 10%. But I was like, yeah, but are they going to lay them off in Austin?
I mean, I don't know. We had .com busts in 02, 03. I mean, it happened. But I mean, a lot of those companies also, I think, I don't pretend to know much about, I don't want to get too outside my wheelhouse here, but I think a lot of those companies, were built on investor, those tech companies were built on investor stuff, and there wasn't really like profit margins, because they were
they're trying to sell
.com, exactly. They were trying to sell. A .com situation versus like an actual product, like Apple. Excuse me, Apple makes a phone. They're selling a product, right? They're a tech company, but they also sell a product. Yeah. But I mean, now Apple's probably sells as much in the phone side as they do in the app side. Sure. Right. So, but at least it's a product. The app's a product too. If you're just selling something that is conceptually, for an investor, so you can have investors invest,
10x their money and sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. So my point was I've been saying this is the best market in the world.
It's good.
It's because all these, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but there's just so much going on. We could talk. So I'm like, absolutely. This could be the best place to invest in the world for the next 10 to 20 years. That's what I'm thinking.
And people know it. I mean, and you have to be very creative and understand all the different folks that are coming in from different cultures. I mean, different cultures negotiate differently. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's an education, really. Yeah. Every single day is an education. I was having a conversation with Darren Quick in my office yesterday, and we were talking about something that came up, that we'd never dealt with before. And I mean, literally, even after 20 years of doing this, on a weekly basis, I see something new or something creative or a different way to do it. I recently went to a conference that was talking about oil and gas rights, and they were talking about like surface rights versus in-ground rights. And I don't know anything about that. I'm not involved in the oil industry. But one of the things they were talking about is that oil company could own the surface rights. And if they own the surface rights, then you sell the property and the oil company retains the surface rights. Then you go to build a building. Guess what? Now maybe you got a problem. Right. Now you got to go back to the oil company and get permission to build because they control the surface rights. And that's kind of
that's a weird thing to think about.
Yeah, exactly. I never thought about that before. Now that probably wouldn't be as big a problem around here, but someplace like Luling, Buc-ee's comes in and they go and they build a on the corner of I-10 and whatever that is. What's the road there to the coast? Is it 183? Anyway, I don't know. So they, let's say they do a whole site plan and then they go to build it and somebody owns the surface rights. Yeah. So really, I mean, it was just a really, really interesting
Or maybe
thing.
they build it, they don't even notice it. Right.
Right.
Is that possible?
And then somebody comes back and says, you can't do that. So
we own the building now.
Anyway, I don't know that much about that. I'm kind of just giving generalities, but I mean, you just learn something like every single day about the market from a real estate perspective, about, different ways to do things, creatively do deals, or, things that are problematic. I mean, just at least once a week, if not, not every day in a week.
When I go meet with a seller, like I'm big on I'm going to present you every option that I could help you with. Mm-hmm. I could list it, I could buy it, I could buy half of it, we could manage it. And I'm still of the mindset that there's concepts out there that I haven't thought of that exist.
Right.
And I'm wondering what else could I propose? Because we could agree to anything.
Sure.
Right? And I've done deals. I've got one right now in East Austin where this guy wants to buy some land, and I put his house under contract, and I said, we'll have a 2-year closing date, and at any given time, you give me 60-day notice, and then I'll close. And he's likes that because he can look for his land.
Sure.
And so, I mean, it's fascinating, and
it's a million ways to do deals.
Yeah.
And things that don't even, I've got a book that's like 100 different ways to do deals creatively.
That's cool.
And some of the stuff in it's I'm not saying it will never be applicable again, but it's not applicable right now. There's things in there that you would never do now compared, when the book was written, when it was all put together. Sure. It was put together in the 80s or the 90s when things were it was a completely different environment. And we think we're never going to get back to that, but we had these huge interest rates in the late 70s and 80s, and we're like, we're never going to get back to that. And then all of a sudden, here come interest rates, right? And hopefully they're not going to go to 7, 10, 12, 14, 18%, but who knows? I mean, that could happen. And then all of a sudden you're creatively doing deals again. Yeah. You're having people owner finance.
Sure.
And then they're carrying paper for, 5 years until it balloons, or you're having, different types of opportunities to buy, assume loans,
do wraps.
Who knows? Wraps, exactly. Yeah. So are we going to get back to that? I don't know. We'll see what's coming down the pipe eventually.
And some kind of variation of those old,
Yeah.
Well, let's go a little more, I would say, micro, in the sense of you got a lot of concepts that are happening locally, specifically probably Williamson County. Mm-hmm. And let's go through these bullet points, because I think it's really fascinating. We're going to talk about actually what's happening in the market.
Yeah.
That's macro that I wanted to touch on because it's changing fast. And
it is.
That, to my whole point, is I always said I wanted it, and now I understand it a little more.
Yeah.
Because these houses in my neighborhood, I'm oh, these are weirdly less desirable than they were 90 days ago.
Right.
Quickly.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'd love to go through, what you think's going on, what's cool.
Well, I mean, I guess first, last time I was here, we talked a lot about the downtown area. And at the time we were going up $100 a square foot every 6 to 12 months in downtown for 4 or 5 years consistently. Mm-hmm. And then COVID happened. And I think 2 things happened. I think COVID happened, and I think quite a few sales happened kind of back to back in those years. And then those were kind of the people that were already looking to move out of the downtown as it was growing. Mm-hmm. And so you just don't have as many people down here looking to do as many things, or people have already come in and bought some things down here, and they're, they're just kind of entrenched now and redeveloping things and growing. But there are a lot of things that are happening in the downtown area. I mean, clearly, this monster library that's going up down here that's just completely, huge library.
$60 million.
It's a huge investment by the city. It's a little bit, it's a little bit strange to me. It looks very, very modern. Mm-hmm. So kind of, to me, I think it kind of, for the moment, doesn't quite fit in the downtown, but I think the reality is that the downtown's going to change drastically, especially down in this area where you guys are, over the course of the next, 10 to 20 years. And so I think that's just the start of that. There's a lot of other projects that have been built in downtown. I know John Moman's doing a lot of projects on the West Main side. He's got some really interesting projects over there, and Nelson Nagel and some of those guys have built some multi-story buildings. So I think we're going to see more of that creep over to the east side as time goes on, east side of Mays in this downtown area. But yeah, the library is kind of a huge part of that.
What's your perception on how close you are to have all these owners been called by 10 developers,
100 developers?
They've all talked to
so many people. They've either been called or they've gotten mailers, or they're just
big time,
kind of almost browbeaten, I think, by the amount of stuff they're getting.
Guy across the street, he said is worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And they literally, I think right behind us or two behind us, they're listed for $1 million each. I'm like,
yeah, I actually,
we bought this for $4 million. I'm like, that's probably what it's worth.
Yeah. I actually talked to them about that listing, and I gave them different numbers, but we'll see if they can get it. I mean,
it's what if they do? What the fuck?
If they do, it's a little problematic with older homes on smaller lots, because the land is where a lot of the value is in the downtown. Yeah. Maybe scraping buildings down here and going vertical, because you can go 2 or 3 stories depending on what zoning code we're in, because there's 4 different zoning codes in downtown. So the only problem with that amount of money is that I think they have it listed with a residential agent. I'm not sure, but
it is.
I think they're taking the land and the improvements into consideration, but the value is really in the land. If you're going to use the improvements, then you've got to do a lot of work, especially with the 2-story, in order to convert it to commercial. And so if you're saying that they're both worth $1 million, and even if someone got that, then they're going to turn around and either have to scrape the buildings, which cost them money, and you lose value because you paid for all those improvements, or you have to go in and put hundreds of thousands of dollars additionally to what you paid to buy them into the improvements in order to convert them to commercial. You got to do ADA parking, you got to do ADA bathrooms, ADA accessibility. One of them's a 2-story, so you have to have, I think you can do ADA in a 2-story in one of these older homes, but I think you have to have the same services downstairs that you would offer upstairs, so that you can make sure it's accessible. So it's going to be interesting to watch that one and see what happens.
Yeah. And like we said,
it's a lot of money.
Maybe somebody pays it, and then we're all like, okay.
It could happen. It could happen. I mean, I think it's a little overpriced, but we'll see what happens.
I feel like it's double the price.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, since I interviewed for it, I probably should curb my response there. But yeah, it's a little bit more than what I told them that I thought they would be able to get. So I did have a meeting with them about that. But so there's some cool things happening that I want to mention. And I think are you living in Dove Creek?
Yeah.
Okay, so the front of your neighborhood on the Mays side, where Logan comes out to Mays. Yeah. So there's that old car wash there on Logan. Yeah. So that behind that, there's a 400-unit condo project that just got through City Council a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and so that's gonna be really cool. It's kind of behind the Helena. Is it Helena Day Spa?
Yep.
So back in that area, so it's a bunch of old lots that are overgrown with grass, and they're going to go in there and build a bunch of condos. And I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised they're going to get 400 units in that tract, but it's right there on Lake Creek,
on the water, yeah.
So that's going to be really kind of cool. No one ever sees that back there. And all that Lake Creek, there's right away there for a trail system, and I think I'm pretty sure.
I'm dreaming of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of cool to see those 400 units come out of the ground, and it's just density for the downtown. Like the more density that you have in your downtown area of residential, that's going to spur more commercial, because people need little grocery stores, they need coffee places, they need a place to get their hair cut. I mean, they can do all that in downtown.
Is
so
that
that's
a
cool.
Big national developer?
No, I don't think they're terribly huge. I wasn't involved in that deal, but I just knew about it because I was at council for another project I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But that is happening in our downtown, and that's 400 units. I mean, it's technically it's on the other side of the bridge from our downtown, but let's be honest. I mean, that's an easy walk across the bridge to get into downtown. Yeah. So it might as well be a part of downtown. And then of course you have the depot project, which is right there going up right now on the tracks. They look like they're doing all the forms, getting ready to build the slabs.
They're building it right on the track.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting because I think, if I remember correctly, and I don't know that developer, so I don't want to put something out there that's inaccurate, but my understanding is that developer's built a lot of things across the country in rail like with rail behind it.
Got it.
And we have a quiet zone in downtown, so they're not blowing horns anymore. The trains still come through, and that still makes plenty of noise, but they're not blowing the horn as they come through downtown. It always
dies right there all the time. I gotta like go back around the other way.
Yeah. But that's gonna be a really interesting project. I don't know if you've looked at it online, but they're really not. I mean, if they,
dude, I tried to when they announced it. I feel like it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress for a while.
I was trying so hard because I did this downtown Austin. I bought a condo before it was built, and it went up in value, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
And I knew, I'm a believer in this. Where I was like, if I could just lock some up, like I'll give you $50,000 today, whatever price you want, and it's going to be worth more. And who knows? Because construction costs have gone up. But like,
absolutely,
you couldn't get on the list, and I still don't think you could. And I was talking to the right person because I was persistent, and like I was like, please just put me on the list to be the first call.
So I think it's like 80 units, and at one point, and I don't know if this is accurate. Again, just kind of scuttlebutt what I hearsay. Somebody told me they had like 200 people on a waiting list. Like they hadn't priced them yet, and they still had 200 people that were waiting to find out what the pricing was going to be on the 80 units.
Yeah.
And so I have a feeling that those are just going to just be
that would seem. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 5 times that.
But if you think about it, if you get 2 people per unit, you got 80 units. I mean, that's 160 people. I mean, same thing with the 400 units. I mean, if you get half of them full with, half of them have 200. I mean, excuse me, half of them have 2 people. You're still gonna have like 600 people in those units.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that's just those 2 projects alone. You could have like somewhere between 500 and 700 or 800 people. Right, just in the downtown.
Yeah,
I mean, like overnight, like within 2 projects. I mean, yeah, and
now everything's packed. Like it's already booked.
Things are gonna follow it.
How do you get into brass tap? I mean, you see, like there's not even close to the.
Well, what's gonna happen is we're gonna have more, development like down here, and down Main Street, down McNeil. There's a few tracks there that are owned by a few different people. You're gonna see more conversions. Conversions seem to be the easiest way to quickly bring your business into downtown. You buy a little home, you do the, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth of ADA conversions, making sure that you have the park and some parking. And it could be more depending on the track, 20, 30, 40,000, could be 100,000. And I don't know if you've been down here on, there's an attorney's office and an architect that are down here on Liberty at Georgetown Street.
Yeah,
they moved that old home that used to be AT&T down there by the water tower, or wasn't AT&T, it was Southwestern Bell back in the day. It was like their operator area. They moved that home all the way down there and put it back on piers and remodeled it. Looks great.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of conversions that I think are gonna a bunch of other houses that'll end up being conversions.
Yeah,
because it's the quickest way to move your business into this area.
Right. One thing to point out, you're always welcome. We started doing this thing. It's kind of cool. You've seen the hometown gift and decor.
Yeah.
So do you know Prodigy Mortgage? Freddie Duarte, and his wife and 3 other girls own that.
Yeah.
But they started doing the last Wednesday of every month, 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Margaritas, beers. They got torchies.
That's cool.
And it's kind of like our event in a sense. Like we're bringing all our agents.
And it's at that
in the backyard.
Oh, nice.
And like we were talking about it yesterday. It's the second time we've done it, and like it's cool, just hanging out, talking real estate. They're lenders, so our agents are meeting them. They're meeting our agents, and then we're like just telling people like, come on over. Like guy drove by, and we just had him come out. He's an electrician, and we're like, we should like grow this.
Yeah.
Like get some of the bar owners, and like last Wednesday every month, 3 to 5, people just hanging out.
I'd love to have more events in downtown.
I know.
So you're talking about that place. I don't know if you know, but over at 503 Main, which is my house, it's on Main Street there next to the mansion.
Yeah.
Of course, you have Woodbine, which is amazing. And the weddings there are like incredible.
Yeah.
Like the gentleman that owns it, I've talked to him a couple of times. And of course, I've got a project going on across the street, which we'll talk about in a minute. But, so I've been kind of conversing with him as we've had concrete trucks and all kinds of trucks come in and out. But
I saw you out. That's the only reason I knew, because I was driving by and I was like, oh man, that's great.
Yeah.
You're building something out there.
Yeah. Well, the Woodbine guy, I mean, they really just do it right. Like if you go and, I mean, just drive by and see some of the weddings that they have going on, I mean, beautiful. Yeah. And that they've really done a lot of work to that. But then right next door at 503 East Main, I've got the Mercantile on Main moved there from downtown.
Yeah.
And they've just done an amazing job setting that up. It's really cool. They have a couple different businesses that are in there, and their online business and some other things, I think. And then they have a warehouse out on Redbud. But it's a really cool shop. If you haven't had a chance to go in there and like check out some of the merchandise, I don't want Amy to get mad at me. She's the owner, but I mean, the way I look at it is it's kind of like mercantile stuff, and then it's kind of like modern too. Like there's some it's like where old meets new, and it's really cool, and to me kind of a funky, kind of eclectic that's cool to have in a downtown like this.
Yeah.
And they're great. All those ladies over there are super cool. So if you get a chance, you should.
Yeah, I haven't checked it out. Yeah,
it's cool.
But anyways, come hometown last Wednesday.
I'll have to check that out too. I haven't checked them out. Yeah,
come on.
I'll have to come. Yeah,
they're cool.
That'd be great. Well, since we kind of mentioned my project, if you'll let me talk about it.
Can I tell you what? Let me tell you real quick, because I've been driving by it, and I'm like, this is my thought process. I'm like, are they doing retail there? I'm like, no. And I'm talking to my wife, and she doesn't know much about retail. And she's like, why not? I'm like, just not. I don't think it's a retail location. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, this looks like a 4-plex. And then the other day, I'm like, they're building a second story. Is this an 8-plex? So I don't know what it is, and I'm totally interested.
Well, first let me tell you that with the help of a friend of mine, Steve Klebsig, I'm basically GCing the entire project, and that's the first time I've ever done that. And it's a large project for me. I mean, it was a little nerve-wracking, and putting it all together and not being able to get materials. I mean, the way the world is right now, it took me 18. I had to order the windows 18 weeks out, so they're still getting made, and you had to get all the trusses built, get all the dirt work built. We took 5 feet of dirt and put a big old hole over there to get the bedrock to make sure we had a solid foundation. Yeah, and we had to backfill it to get to pour this foundation. But it's been an amazing process to like a huge learning curve to build something ground up. Yeah. I was fortunate because I own the land already. Okay. So that made it a little bit easier from a cost perspective. But man, it's with the cost of everything, like May 1st, plumbing went up like 8%. Yeah. So at the end of April, I just bought 800 feet of pipe and stuck it in my garage. Nice. And so we're trying to just creatively figure out ways to watch our cost. Sure. And then of course, June 1st, which is right around the corner, hurricane season starts. So, good luck getting material if we have a hurricane anywhere along the Gulf Coast, from Texas to Florida, and even really the East Coast. Material will be 20% overnight. So we've got all our ACs ordered. We've already been trying to get whatever material in we could, but it's been a crazy project. Yeah. So okay. Well,
hold on.
Yeah.
What is it, man?
Here's a 4-plex. Here's what we're building. So downstairs we have 4 units that are flex. They're like retail office flex. Okay. And I've already got 3 of them leased. Okay. So it's pretty exciting. The 4th one is the one on the McNeil side, and I'm trying to find a coffee shop or something like that I can put in there that's like fits, especially with all the traffic that's going by there. Sure. On McNeil now. And then upstairs, I've got 2 apartments, and they're large. They're like 3-bedroom and 2-bedroom. And they're about 2,500 square feet apiece. It's like building a house. Big, it's like building 2 houses on the 2nd floor. Yeah. And so
big houses too.
Yeah, exactly. Big houses. So
that's awesome.
So
are you able to talk about the tenants?
It's 6 units. Yeah. So I'm expanding a tenant that I already have, Soul Strong Yoga. We're working with them, and then I've got a counselors group that's taking the 3rd unit. I've already had like 2 or 3 people that have been So the Soul Strong will take 2 units. Okay. Counseling group's taking the 3rd unit. And then I've already talked to 2 or 3 people about coffee and maybe sandwich place on the end cap. And then one of the upstairs apartments, I already have somebody that would like to have one of those. I'm trying to decide what to do upstairs, whether we're going to do apartments, or I've actually considered like just setting up for like VRBO or something like that for the wedding venue across the street. Yeah. Because they don't have people that stay there. I think a lot of people stay at the Ruby, which is also really cool. Have you checked that place out? Oh yeah. Man, that place is so awesome.
I love the Ruby.
And so I just thought, well, hey, maybe I would just have it be VRBO for people that want to come to the wedding. They can just walk across the street. Haven't decided what I want to do there yet. People going to a wedding and drinking a lot. I just don't want them to come back and like tear my place up. But they just built
next door. Yeah.
So I'm still weighing that. It just depends. It's probably gonna. Plus, do I want to run a hotel?
Sure.
I don't know.
I got a great girl that I have a couple Airbnbs, and she runs them. Yeah. If you need that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I got one on East Austin. Actually, Andrew and I own that together. Yeah. Right down here. Mm-hmm. And then we got one on Deerfoot Circle, and they do pretty well.
All right. Well, I may take you up on that.
She's good.
I mean, I think we would do very well there. It's all going to be brand new and modern in the inside, and then the exterior is going to look more like it fits in the downtown. It's a big building, and I wish I had something to show you, but it's a big building, and I'll send it over to you so you can see what the conceptual looks like. I think people are really going to like it. We're going to do some neat things over there, so we're pretty excited about it. It's been almost 3 years. It's a project that's taken me almost 3 years to get to this point. And, soft cost engineering architecturals, Mode Architecture did all my architecturals. So that's awesome. And then Nick Sandlin did all my civil work. He's awesome too. And so I just got good people on the project.
That's awesome.
McClendon Electric is doing the electrical. John Podolak is a friend of mine, is doing all the plumbing. Salvador Rivera is doing all the framing. I just got like a bunch of good people that I trust. So it's been really a good thing for me.
That's cool. My mom has a house on Casey Lane, a
Yeah.
little cul-de-sac down there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that it's like a big lot, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, maybe we build something. I'd talk to you about what team do we use to go build this?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been, it's been a crazy deal. So Wolf Construction did all my dirt work, and the first day we got out there, we figured out that we thought we were taking 2 feet of fill out, and it ended up being 5 feet of fill. So it was just, every single day there's something that has to be adjusted.
Dude, I did an internship with a developer in college, and I was just like, I don't want to be a developer.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to maybe sell them the deals.
And really, on the scale of development in the Austin, Texas area, this is like a little tiny project.
But it's a big deal to learn it.
But still, you still have to do the soft cost. You still have to do the dirt work. You still have to do the slab. You still have to do the what if you're doing metal or you're doing tilt wall. Ours is stick built, so we're just doing that, wood framing. You still gotta have a roofer, you still gotta have an electrician, still gotta have a plumber. I mean, there's just so many things to juggle. You gotta find somebody to do sheetrock. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff.
But once you figure that out, like you understand.
Once you have a group of guys that
now you can go do whatever you want.
Exactly right.
It's a little different, but not that much different.
It's gonna be an exhausting year. It's actually better now that I'm out of the mud and I have a slab and I'm starting to come into framing.
Quick.
Yeah, now that the framing's happening, we're gonna be framing the roof trusses probably by the end of today. And so, the framer that I'm working with is a great guy. I'm really happy with him and his crew, and they're great guys. Like, all those guys are fantastic.
How do you determine, like, if you would just make the top an office? Like,
so ADA compliance. You got to make sure you have accessibility, which is really challenging. I thought about it. I could have put in like a little small elevator or something like that, but it's just
not worth it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's not worth it. It's just. And I'd prefer not to have residential stuff. That's why I'm considering doing like a VRBO or a, something like that. Because I have a few little residential houses left, and I'm trying to go, like that's stuff I started out with, and now I'm trying to move away from that into commercial.
One of the business owners, probably whoever owns a coffee shop, probably want to live up there or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be a possibility. One of the business owners would want to live up there. It's crazy with the rents around here. People are getting $2,500 a month for 1,500, 2,000 square feet. Right. So I'm going to have to figure that out, like how much it's going to be, rent wise. If I rent it to a single tenant,
maybe the wedding venue wants the office space or something.
Possible. Yeah. I mean, I could do something like that, I guess. I mean, my main thing is I was just trying to get the square footage on the ground, and then I can figure out where to go from here. Maybe in the future, somebody will occupy the downstairs and the upstairs.
Could you make it a condo and just sell it?
I could, but that's kind of a family property for me, and I'm really not. In my business, I'm really like a buy, hold, and get cash flow type of situation. I mean, I could sell it eventually. Sure. I could have built it and sold it and probably made a lot of money, especially just doing all the GC work.
Sure.
But that's not really what my goal is.
Yeah.
I got 4 kids, and my youngest is going to be a freshman, and so I got 4 years until he's out of high school, and I become an empty nester, and then I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for what I want to do.
Sure. Kind
of with the twilight of my life. So
that's cool.
Having cash flow is really nice on that.
Is it true? Talked to this guy yesterday or a week ago. You got your kids until they're about 13, and then you lose them to friends and all this. He's like, because mine's 4. He's like, you think you got them till the end of high school?
Yeah.
But you got them till about 13.
So my dad, who was a great guy, is a counselor and a minister, and he used to jokingly say, like they hit about 13 and you wish you could just like lock them away for a little while they get through their teenage years, because it's so difficult. And you're so worried about them, really.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing. You worry about them because what are they doing? Hopefully they're not, injecting themselves with drugs or something crazy like that. But then they get to be, 18, they graduate. You're fortunate for those 13 to 18 years to have somebody in your house that knows everything. That's nice. Mm-hmm. But what happens is, what my experience is they, they grow up and then, you hit about 20 and then they start thinking that, oh, maybe you do know, maybe you know some things.
Sure.
And then they kind of come back. They kind of come back around. I'm not saying that those I got 2 in college right now. Yeah. One's at Tech and one's going to Blinn, trying to get into A&M. I'm not saying those years are always easy either, because there's still a lot of work. But yeah, once you got kids, you got them for the rest of your life. I mean, they're gonna call you in the middle of the night when
one way or another.
Wrong. They're gonna be 30 years old and call you and say, hey, my oldest is 26 and he still calls me all the time and needs help with things. I mean, it's just kind of nature being a parent.
Yeah, I do the same. My mom's up here cold calling, helping us out.
I'll tell you what, one of my favorite books in the whole world is Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. I don't know if you ever read it, but it's so true. The tree starts out this beautiful tree, and as their kids get older, the tree kind of withers all the way down to a stump where it has nothing left to give. Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly, when you're a kid, you read that book and it's just a children's book. But when you're a parent and you read that book, it has totally different meaning.
Sure.
But anyway,
I had to ask.
We're getting kind of deep into
hey, that's all right.
Stuff,
that's how we do it on this podcast.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, hey, let me tell you about a couple other really cool projects. I was trying to think if there was anything else downtown. Yeah, so you have the project around the water tower. I'm not sure whether that one's going to happen or not. The city's been working with the developer, and I think there's been some rockiness there, but maybe somebody else will come in.
Boutique hotel was.
Yeah, there's boutique hotel and office and some retail on the bottom floor. It's possible that's not going to happen now, but I think either way, whether it happens or it doesn't, what you end up with is a nice green space. We don't really have a town square, and so if it doesn't happen, I think the city of Round Rock's got a nice kind of green space and square right there in the middle of town. And if they're able to get the developer that they want, that's going to build it the way that the city sees fit, then I think it'll be a good project. I think it would be great if it happened, because I think it's like a hub for North and South Maze. I think the future of North and South Maze is things are going to go vertical. You'll have kind of like Lamar or Burnett, where you have things all the time.
Thought the same thing.
And I mean, I don't know if you've driven all the way now, but you can drive Maze all the way to University, which is really,
I do it all
really
the time.
Cool. Yeah. So
you know Stetson?
Yeah.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
He's got that management company, and he owns his facility where you see his management stuff, but he owns the next one, the one adjacent to it.
Nice. Yeah.
But he was talking about doing.
Did they buy Alan McGraw's building?
I believe so.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. I talked about my project at over there on Lewis. I hope to have that, tenants moving in by the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. One thing I wanted to tell you about was this project I'm working on over on Westview and Kenny Fort, which is really cool on 45. Yeah. So during the pandemic, I worked with 10 families to create a PUD, get annexed into the city of Round Rock, remove all the deed restrictions on all their properties.
I talked to some of those people when I was doing my deal.
Yeah. Remove all the deed restrictions. Just work closely with the city. The PUD was really difficult, just trying to figure out what would fit in it. There's 3 different, sections of the PUD. And so we've sold, of the 10 lots, one sold that I wasn't involved in. They already had it kind of teed up, and she was a real estate agent. I've sold one of the lots. I got another closing on the 31st of May coming up here in a couple days. And then I have 4 other ones under contract to a developer out of the Dallas area, and this is really exciting. They have a 1,200 unit wrap project planned for that. So if you're not familiar with a wrap project, it's
I don't think I am.
It's and I'm not an expert by any means, but it's a parking garage, and then you have the apartments are wrapped around it. So that's why it's called a wrap.
Oh, okay.
And so 1,200 units. It's the largest project ever approved by City Council in the city of Round Rock. So they went through a change of the PUD because they needed to on that particular project, which got approved by P&Z, no pushback. And they went through City Council, got approved by City Council, no pushback. It's going to be a fantastic project. These guys build amazing product. I mean,
cool.
Really beautiful stuff that you'd think of on like Lamar or Burnett or like Triangle. Are you familiar with the Triangle totally. Deal? So that's exciting. Speaking of Triangle, we're going to be opening a new brass tap. Not we, but the people that own the brass tap are going to be opening a new brass tap at Triangle over there on Lamar.
Oh, cool.
I just did that deal. We just wrapped that up. So that's pretty cool. So brass tap, they're taking the old flying saucer.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
What that is?
Yep.
So that's really neat. That was a cool deal. I guess I'll mention that.
That's cool.
Since we're talking about that.
One thing that I think about, it's great, man. I love all these people coming here.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough, or do we need more like do we need more businesses or more companies, or do we already got enough here? Because I'm like, people are great, but like, how do we like?
I think we have. I think for the last, I don't know if it's 10 years now, we've had like 150 to 170, 180 people a day moving to the Austin MSA. Mm-hmm. It's still not enough. Like we have so many businesses that are relocating here that need to hire employees. And we need, and a lot of the businesses that are relocating here are tech. So we're getting like really educated people that are moving here with salaries that are, north of $100,000 a year. And so that's pretty nice. If you have two people that are tech oriented, husband and wife, they're making 150,000 each, and they can buy some pretty nice housing.
Sure.
And so I think everybody's trying to hire here, mm-hmm. and everything from like the retail restaurant all the way up to executive, mm-hmm. Corporate executives and everything in between. And I just think I could be totally off on this. I just think we're gonna have growth for quite a while because of that. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion nationally about, are we headed into a recession? The Fed jumped interest rates 0.5 point, which the market didn't like and kind of had some negative reaction, but we seem to be kind of recovering a little bit from that. They've got to raise interest rates so we don't just get eaten alive by inflation. But if everybody's right and we head into a recession kind of nationwide, where are people going to go? They're going to go where the jobs are, and we have lots of them. So I kind of feel like if we continue this trend, I could see us having a recession nationwide and housing prices in the Austin MSA going up 20 or 30%.
Yeah.
I could be totally off about that, because maybe that would hit us hard too because of the amount of tech we have here. But you got Tesla and Samsung and Applied Materials and Apple, and we just have all these people that are expanding here, mm-hmm. and moving in more and more people, and needing to hire. I mean, if you go on a job board right now, a lot of those people are still trying to hire people. And then with Samsung and Applied and Tesla, I mean, let's talk about those three. Then you've got all the suppliers that have to have industrial space and have to have office space to be able to support those companies. Mm-hmm. And so, I just think we have growth one way or another. I'm not saying we won't dip. I'm not saying we won't feel it a little bit, but I certainly don't think we're going to just fall to pieces.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Can you help me understand, do you know this in depth or a little bit more on, like, you said raising rates will hedge inflation. Like, do you know how to kind of simplify that? Like,
I don't know. I'm no economist. So, I mean, I really I'm just,
you just know it works.
It's just talking points. I mean, I know that's what they're trying to do.
Right.
Raise interest rates to curb inflation.
I want to go look it up now, but like, what is it that does? How does that?
It's a
I know it's fact. I know
that's what they're trying to do. I don't know that I don't know if I know enough about micro or macro, for that matter, economics to be able to explain any of that, because that's not really my wheelhouse.
Sure.
But I think that's what the goal is by raising interest rates. They're trying to slow down
inflation.
They're trying to slow the market down. Really?
Oh, I got it. I got it. Yeah, it makes sense. It's just in general, it slows things down. Like, you can't just keep.
Yeah. So we'll see. And there's a ton of money still in the system, and we still have all kinds of like I was talking about having to get windows for my project, and it taken like 16 to 18 weeks. I mean, we just don't have. Or I'll give you another example: HVAC units for my project. That was 20 weeks out. I mean, a lot of it's because these companies can't get the parts that they need to build the products. Yeah. Right. I was reading an article the other day, and it was talking about trucks now, 18-wheelers. Now we're not able to get parts to do repairs in 18-wheelers, and we have all this stuff still coming into the West Coast. Yeah. We just can't get it filtered out fast enough to the rest of the country.
This banker
it's crazy.
Yeah, dude. This banker, two things yesterday that stuck out. He's like, food. You're gonna wait till you see what happens with food in a couple months. I don't know. And then he was talking about like all these builders that they have these lines of credits with, and he's like, these guys, they have like 10% drawn. Yeah. Like they're not even using, like they can't.
Well, I mean, if diesel's $5.50 a gallon, that's going to affect food prices. It's going to affect.
Buy a Prius.
Well, I mean,
I've been driving this Prius and people make fun of me.
Yeah, but a farmer can't buy a Prius.
I know.
They got to put diesel in their tractor.
No, it's just funny. It's, I get it. It's a personal point, but like everyone makes fun of me. Yeah. And like, I'm literally not even affected by it. It's like, instead of $17 a tank, I'm paying $22.
I mean, have you noticed lately how many Teslas there are? It seems like every time I drive down the road, I see dozens of Teslas in this market, which I mean, I think makes sense, especially since Tesla's a massive factory here, right?
We're gonna start seeing those trucks like crazy. Here,
Yeah,
probably
it's
more than
interesting
anywhere.
to see the Cybertrucks. I heard a rumor, this could be completely off, so I hate to spread rumors, but I heard that, Taylor has a bunch of light rail. I heard they're going to ship a lot of Cybertrucks out of Taylor. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
That'd be cool.
That'd be cool. Going to be a lot of growth out there. Do you want to talk about that area?
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, you've got whatever it is, $17 billion, I think, for Samsung, and I don't know what Applied is 25 billion.
That's a crazy number.
And the $17 billion, I think, is just the initial investment.
Did you see the drawing of how big it is?
Yeah, it's massive. Have you been out there and looked at the site?
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, I drove by it a while back. It's just they're already turning dirt.
Just so they know, they put Tesla, Amazon, and Apple in it 5 times.
Oh wow.
All those, they showed it. You put all those buildings, each 3 of those, 5 times each.
Yeah.
Inside of the Samsung building.
Yep.
I saw it drawn on a piece of paper, like it was on the Business Journal or something.
Yeah, I mean it's massive, and I was talking with someone, and they were talking about that $17 billion that Samsung's doing is just their initial investment. So, I mean, it's probably going to be 30, 40 billion eventually, right? I mean, but let's talk about what that's going to do to that area.
Sure.
I mean, that whole area is going to grow. Taylor's going to grow. I think who's really going to grow a lot is Hutto. East Round Rock is going to fill in the rest of, their housing, kind of the northeast. East Georgetown, I think is going to grow tremendously. North Pflugerville. I mean, all those folks are going to live on this east side and then commute to
Bartlett,
to those businesses.
some of those places. I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, somebody went in and bought like tons and tons of buildings in Bartlett, which I thought was an interesting move, and maybe it's a long-term investment for them. But I mean, like Bartlett's been the same way for 30, 40 years. I mean, there's a reason why those little small towns aren't, don't have mercantile shops anymore, because everybody drives a Taylor. And so we'll see how that works out.
But it's great though, like, cause I have a triplex in Bartlett.
Yeah.
And you can live there for like $1,100 and just.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, Bartlett, I was more talking about the commercial in the downtown.
Yeah.
But Bartlett and Granger are interesting. There's been so much filming out there, So I know that like Secondhand Lions was filmed out there. The new True Grit was filmed in Granger. So if you go into the downtown.
New True Grit?
Yeah. So if you go into the ground and into the downtown Granger area, you can see. They put dirt down over the road and the railroad tracks and everything, but you can see that the buildings are all the same as in the movie True Grit. I mean, they put boards on the outside of the buildings to make them look more Western.
Oh, I thought you said there's a new one.
No. It was like this latest one with
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that one was filmed there. So there's all kinds of like production that's going on out there. I just did a deal recently with CBS. They're filming the new Walker, Texas Ranger in this area. And so they leased a 20,000 square foot building for their production staff.
That's cool.
Which is really neat.
Dude,
I told the lady, I was like, hey, I'm waiting for my cameo. And she's like, if you want to be on it, I'll get you on it. I was like, that sounds great.
Yeah, I do want to be on it.
Maybe I'll be in one of the Walker, Texas Ranger episodes. That'd be pretty
Will you take a roundhouse?
Maybe. Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's fine. I would take it. It'd be kind of cool if it was Chuck Norris, but I heard that I haven't watched the show, but I heard that it's pretty decent. Have you ever seen it? The new one?
Nothing new.
Anyway.
No, just a side note on all that. Like, I was at have you been to the Crossover in Cedar Park? Have you heard of that? It's a big deal. It's hockey.
I've heard about it, but I haven't been to it.
I met what's his name? Eric. I can't remember. He's a developer, local guy.
Okay.
But he built that, and I was there, and they had all these cheerleaders that were training there.
Yeah.
And I met the instructor, and he's like, we used to do this in LA, and we're doing this here now.
Yeah.
In Cedar Park.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a random little deal, but they're shipping cheerleaders all here.
Yep.
And then they're checking out Austin, and there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
Anyways, keep going. You have more on Taylor, like.
I don't know that. I mean, I know Taylor's changing dramatically. I think we were talking before the podcast that like there's just the valuations in Taylor have just gone skyrocketing.
Yeah. Houses in Hutto are $400K. Like.
Yeah. Well, I did get the latest housing numbers in Austin I saw were like 660 for the median.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, man. Yeah. Crazy.
I know.
I mean, I do have my client from San Diego that I was mentioning earlier. That was saying that he thinks from maybe like the third or fourth inning of this growth of a 9-inning stretch that could just go on for a long time. He was like, don't, try your best not to sell as many things as you can because, you could just continue to see this appreciation as things go. I don't know if it'll be the same. California is a different animal. You get that. Most of California is pinned between the mountains and the ocean, so they don't really have anywhere else to go, and that's why they go more vertical faster than say a place like here where you have just
lots of room,
huge amounts of land. But people don't want to sprawl too far out. I mean, you're starting to see that now
and those people don't want to sell either.
Right.
I mean, they will, but
yep. So, well, I thought I might go over some of the other kind of the state of office, industrial, kind of the other stuff that's going on in this area. So, I mean, office, we're still in kind of a COVID recovery moment. We've been seeing a lot of medical, tons of medical. Some of that probably has to do with just aging demographics. Lots of medical coming into the area. I'd say the majority of our office deals that we've done post-COVID have been medical, all kinds of medical. Anything you can imagine, from dentists to different types of surgeons. So not as much just general office, which I think still is just a COVID thing. People are still working from home, but I think that's coming. I don't want to say it's coming to an end, but I think it's coming to a middle ground point. I think some companies are starting to say, we've lost a lot of production. We're starting to pull people back into the office. And other companies are saying, no, we're okay with you working from home still for now. So I think there's kind of a blended situation there in the office market. At least that's what I'm seeing here in the Williamson County, kind of northern Travis County. I don't do a whole lot of stuff in downtown Austin from the office perspective. But what I see here is that, you've got a lot of medical and then some intermittent smaller other offices. Now, I also don't have like 20,000, 30,000 square foot blocks of office. So some of those office guys may be seeing that. And I'm just not seeing it because it's just not the majority of what I do. On the industrial side, small units, 1,000 to 3,000 square feet are almost non-existent. We just don't have it. I have a project over on Dungan Lane that we've been working on that have like 2,000, 1 to 2,000, 3,000 square foot units. And we literally are 100% full, and we're still getting a half a dozen calls a week. Just people can't find small spaces. Your plumbers, your electricians, your just small delivery people. Like, we have a gentleman that imports candies from Mexico and then delivers them to all the convenience stores around town. A lady that does delivery of just sodas, different types of sodas to different places. It's those type of folks. They have like a van, and then they have their product, and they put in the van, they go out and they deliver, and they put their van back in the unit. So those kind of spaces, almost non-existent. Medium units, I'd say like anywhere from like 3,000 to like 10,000 square feet. Those units are not moving as quickly. There's still people looking for those units in the market. That it just seems to be that we don't have as many of those size users. Maybe going all the way up to 15, so maybe like 3,000 to 15,000. And then large units, I just listed a 50,000 square foot building in Pflugerville. We seem to be getting a lot of attention with it. Lots of people want to know if they'll sell it. Lots of people looking to buy larger industrial. But also what I touched on a while ago about, Samsung and Applied Materials and Tesla and all these people coming in, we seem to be talking to a lot of people that are related to those businesses. Maybe they're suppliers, maybe they do testing for those companies of some kind. We seem to get a lot of that in that size range, in kind of the, I'd say 50,000 square feet and down. Don't really get much above that. Although I will say that we just sold two pieces of land. We're in the process of selling on Westinghouse, and they're going to build hundreds of thousands of square feet. Kind of spec. Yeah. Spec. One other project I want to talk about on the industrial side. And was Chase Clancy in our office when you were working with us? He used to work with Robert Shore, but he's with Colliers now. Okay. They have a huge project out off north of 130 Toll on 972. It's crazy because it feels like it's out in the middle of nowhere, but I think it's about 290 acres, and their first phase is like 400,000 square feet. And I'm not even sure there's wastewater out there. So they must be creatively figuring out how to get that done, whether it's using gray water to water their landscaping or septic. I'm not sure exactly how they're doing that, but that's a pretty neat project because you're starting to get industrial projects in Georgetown that are stretching north of the toll road, which is getting us closer to Jarrell. And I'm not sure if you know what's going on in Jarrell, but there's a bunch of stuff happening in Jarrell, especially on that west side of Jarrell. There's a bunch of land that's being purchased by some different companies out there. And,
Disney?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's. I don't know. I don't want to go there. I think that's probably who it is. but I don't know enough to speak on it. I just know that
I just keep hearing it from
land's been put under contract and has been selling out there because I know some people that have sold some stuff. So I'll leave it at that.
It's Disney.
I think you're right, but I don't know that for a fact, so I'm not going to speak to that. But I mean, if it is, that would be
epic.
I mean, epic's not even the word. I mean, it would be
magical.
Maybe a little frightening, because that's a lot of impact. And so yeah, so you got a lot of growth kind of heading north. I talked about Liberty Hill earlier. Now we're north of 130 for industrial and some other construction heading towards Jarrell on I-35. Just lots of growth in the north side, which is, historically, I feel like north of Airport Road in Georgetown, there wasn't really a whole lot north of Airport Road. I mean, you have Berry Creek on the west side, but not even a lot of stuff on 195. But now you're really starting to see stuff push north of even the toll road. So I think that there's a massive wave of growth coming to Georgetown. I think they're probably going to get the brunt of a lot of the next growth, probably Georgetown and Liberty Hill. Wow. They're doing a bypass in Liberty Hill. I don't know if you know that. They're going to bypass 29 from the toll road. They're going to go south, and I can send it to you if you want to see it, but they're going to go south of 29 and bypass it and go all the way around to, I don't know if it goes all the way to Burnett, but it goes around that chunk of Liberty Hill where they have a lot of traffic. So a bypass in Liberty Hill, it's crazy.
Yeah, wow.
Lots of growth. Let's see. I can talk about retail a little bit if you want me to do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Real quick.
Yeah, sure.
There might be someone here for me. He can come in and listen if he wants, if you're cool with that. Yeah. He's coming from like South Africa, and we always keep going, but I think he'll enjoy it if you want. I mean,
I'm super long-winded, so cut me off.
No, you're good. You're good. I think if you want to just tell him. All
right. So, I mean, the retail market, I think we've kind of been hit or miss in recovery. Quite a few people just didn't survive COVID. But really only, if you look at the retail centers that are in at least the Round Rock area and the Georgetown area, every center's got, not every center, but most centers that are actively being marketed and people are trying to get people into space, because sometimes that doesn't happen. Maybe 1 unit, maybe 2 units, maybe 5%, 8% vacancy. Yeah. But then the flip side of that, the reason I say it's hit or miss is because those little 5 to 8, 10% vacancies in those centers aren't filling up. So it's kind of a weird thing. You don't have a lot of vacancy and most people are making it. But then you don't have also a whole lot of tenants that are backfilling those spaces for whatever reason. Some of that might have to do with cost. The taxes are going up a lot, and a lot of that cost gets passed through to tenants. So it's very possible that we could see more vacancy in retail because of the expense of our taxes in this area that have been going up like crazy. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the retail. Let's see. I think I touched on office. I think I touched on industrial, retail. We talked about interest rates. Had a lot of land selling. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's great, man. I would just say, to kind of wrap it up, like, it's cool for people to hear this. And the takeaway I would say is, like, be careful with what's going on and studying your local market. Like, we're talking specifically about Austin, and every market's a little bit different. Yeah. And we do brokerage here, but if you're going to be doing some larger commercial deals, call Brent.
I appreciate that.
It's a different world.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. And happy to help you, and I'm excited, and we're in a great place, man. And we'll keep pushing forward, and we are try to be best business people and dads and leaders that we can. And I've always respected you, and thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And I appreciate you having me, and it's a good opportunity for me to talk, which I love to do. So
good. Well, we'll do it every year or so.
Anytime,
or whatever.
Let me know. I'll be happy to.
If you ever have something that you want to specifically talk on, like, come on and talk about it. This is a good update. Like, if you're in real estate here, you should be wanting to hear this. This is cool stuff.
Yeah, I think it's good. If you want, I can send you some information about some of the things we talked about today. And if you want to share it, however you can, we'll happy to put it out there. If people have questions, we'll be happy to help them.
Cool. Well, once again, Brent Campbell, he's an entrepreneur, real estate broker. He's over at Don Quick here in Round Rock. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you can, comment, like, share, subscribe. Get some more people to check out the show. Thanks again for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
You guys have a good day.
Appreciate it.
Keep getting it, baby.